Hi everyone, One-Thany-Two-Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Daniel Caesar record, Case Study 01. Singer and songwriter Daniel Caesar, he is back, Canada native. He is finally following up his 2017 record Freudian, which was a pretty big breakout moment for him. A record of lightly groovy neo-soul and R&B tracks that were sweet to the ear and very easygoing, kind of pensive. And as solid as I thought this album was, I did come away from it wishing that the vocals were a bit more gripping, that the production was more bold and maybe a little out there, because quite a bit of the beats on this thing did feel very, very, very sanitary. So going into this new record, I don't really know what I was hoping for, honestly. Maybe some more risks, some more sound play. Daniel's singing, while not bad, could certainly be more emotionally captivating. So after listening to Case Study 01, there is one thing that I can say for sure, and it's that the production, the recording, the instrumentals here, they're not nearly as pristine, they're not as squeaky clean. The instrumentals feel a lot more homespun and blemished, which can be endearing on certain tracks. And that is kind of funny because nearly every track on this record does have a major producer or a studio attached to it, whether that be Jordan Evans or Matthew Burnett. Between the both of them, they've worked with artists like Jay-Z and Lil Wayne and Eminem. Also, some of the material on this thing was even recorded at Abbey Road Studios, which is one of many locations these songs were tracked at. So if this thing does sound a little all over the place on the whole of the track list, that can contribute a little bit as to why. So I definitely appreciate that Daniel Caesar seemed to have had a lot of industry backing going into this project, but the song still came out as unpolished, a little impressionistic. I think I can generally say that Case Study 01 is weirder and a bit artsier than its predecessor, but even with that, I still feel like Daniel is a far cry away from making a record that has a truly distinct sound or style within the current landscape of R&B and soul. I feel like if you've heard a number of songs from the early days of Anderson .Paak, of Frank Ocean, maybe some Solange or D'Angelo, some of the internet, Steve Lacy too, you've already heard a great deal of what Daniel is attempting on this LP. Without a doubt, he's still a capable songwriter on this album. There are some decent tunes to be heard here, but sometimes the execution does feel off, like there are tracks here that could have used another take. The awkward falsetto vocals all over the track Open Up are a prime example of that to me. Also, Daniel's nearly comatose singing on the end of Too Deep to Turn Back. Popular R&B singer Brandy's appearance on the track Love Again is uncharacteristically weak as well. Again, many moments on this album that I think could have used a do-over. There are a number of instrumentals as well that to my ears just feel very basic, very plain, kind of lifeless. The song Restore the Feeling is a great example of this. I do like the intimate tone of the track. The vocals feel so close, so up front, like I'm listening to a very tiny powwow of a song. But God, does this beat feel demo-ish. Ugh. It's so naked, dusty, colorless, and flavorless, it absolutely kneecaps the full potential of the song. I pretty much feel the same way about the instrumental on the song Complexities. Also, the very thin acoustic guitars and cheap springy reverb or delay on the closing track here as well is kind of uninspired and, to me, definitely beneath, production-wise, any artist that is releasing a record on a huge platform. And absolutely, I can understand taking the simple road or taking the simple approach, but it's not exactly like any of the beats here are so minimal that they're experimental, are so simplistic or so sparse that they're making an artistic statement in that regard. Truly, most of the music here just sounds half-baked, and that's all. And maybe partially the reason for this is that Daniel is trying to catch lightning in a bottle. I think that may be why nothing on this album feels like he labored over it too heavily. And this isn't necessarily a bad approach if what you end up generating figuratively is pure electricity. But if those aren't the results that you're actually getting when you're finally putting these songs together, it's time to go back to the drawing board and start assembling your tracks in a more composed and meticulous fashion. While generally I wouldn't say the album is terrible or intolerable, there were really only a few tracks that stood out to me as being supremely good, well written, well performed, well produced. We have the lush and dreamy Superposition featuring John Mayer. The guitars on this track are great. Daniel Caesar's lead vocal melody is pretty fantastic too. This song, in my opinion, actually contains the best vocal performance from Caesar on the entire record. Yes, it is a little sleepy, it's a little lullaby-like, but it's still a very pretty tune. I feel like I'm just being cradled in with his voice. We also have Frontal Lobe music featuring Pharrell Williams. Pharrell's vocal melody is kind of weird on this track, but it's still sweet as honey and adds a nice bit of quirk and levity to the song. I do have to admit though, this is one of those moments on this record, while I do like the song, it's a track that I kind of wish Anderson .Paak was on it. I feel like instrumentally and aesthetically, this is exactly the kind of track that Paak would kill it on top of, because while Caesar's singing is good, he doesn't quite bring the same amount of swagger, and I can feel him trying to turn that up a little bit on this song, but he doesn't quite push it far enough. I don't know, man. Again, I don't think this record is the worst thing I've heard all year. There is a lot of potential here, and I feel like if Daniel finds a way to make this somewhat artsier, messier direction work into the future, this could be really cool. But for a majority of the time, I just feel like the stars aren't aligning on this record. Sometimes the singing is pretty great, but everything else is just okay. Sometimes the instrumental is captivating or goes in an interesting direction, but then the singing or the song is just kind of bland. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent to it, frankly. I'm feeling a light 5 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Daniel Caesar, forever.